Kol echad yesh lo shem. Each of us has a name, given by the source of life and given by our parents, given by our statute and our smile, and given by what we wear. Kol echad yesh lo shem. Each of us has a name given by the mountains and given by our walls, given by the stars and given by our neighbors. Kol echad yesh lo shem. Each of us has a name given by our sins and given by our longing, given by our enemies and given by our love. Kol echad yesh lo shem. Each of us has a name given by our celebrations and given by our work. Kol echad yesh lo shem. Each of us has a name. Friends, we're gathered here today to both celebrate and to mourn Gerald Arthur Bials. He was known as Jerry, Jer, Honey, Dad, Papa Jerry, Jer Bear, and good friend. Jerry was born in Cleveland on September 17th, 1937, and he died this past Friday here in Atlanta, knowing that he was very, very loved. The Hebrew dates for his birth and death are the 12th of Tishrei, 5698, and the 9th of Nisan, 5783, respectively. He was 85 years old. Jerry had many relationships which made his life a blessing. He was son to Henry and Eunice, and brother to Howard, Zichron Lebracha. He was husband to Arlene, who passed in 99, and then remarried to Sheila, who mourns him today. He was father to Eileen and Robert, stepfather to Robin, Mitchell, Lisa, and Gail. He was father-in-law to Tom, Julia, Sean, Karen, and Eric. He was brother-in-law to Alice, Zichron Lebracha, Margaret, Steve, Eileen, Bob, and Nancy. He was grandfather to Brent, Troy, Nicholas, Carly, Karen, Harry, Jack, Hannah, Shane, Shelby, Caitlin, and Ashley. His cup runneth over. He was a respected member of our community, friend to many, and a really, really good guy. Jerry's childhood was one that contained deep sadness, but also comfort and joy. His parents died when he was young, and he lived with relatives who took him in and made him their own. His best friend was his cousin Fred. The family didn't have much, but they were happy. Against the odds, Jerry did very well. He was bar mitzvahed in a little neighborhood shul in Cleveland, and his stories about high school lead us to believe that he was popular and had a really good time. He also did well enough in school to be admitted to the Case Western University, where he became a chemical engineer. In 1958, He and Arlene were married, and 5 years later they were blessed with 2 children, Eileen and then Robert. They raised their little children in Houston, where Jerry worked in the oil industry. The family moved to Watertown, New York, and then to Greenville, North Carolina. Jerry retired early at the age of 58. Theirs was a happy family with a home full of warmth and laughter and connection. Jerry loved his wife and kids, and they in turn loved him back with a quality which can only be described as kadosh, sacred, holy. When Arlene died in 1999, Jerry was devastated. But Arlene would have been glad to know that their children and family and community rallied to Jerry's side and stood with him through his grief, helping him get to the point where he could continue to live his life. Arlene's memory is a source of strength and comfort to them all. Earlier this week, sitting in my study, Sheila and the family put together the story of how Jerry and Sheila met. It's fun to hear. And there was some good laughter involved, even as Jerry's presence filled the room. Sheila, your Howard died a few years before, and Jerry was in town seeing your mutual friend, Ellen Feinberg. Ellen asked if you wanted to play bridge the following week, and you said yes. She casually mentioned that your fourth was going to be a good friend who'd lost his wife and would be in from out of town. You agreed to play bridge, not knowing that the game would be the start to a most wonderful chapter in your life and Jerry's, and what the two of you would have together. The bridge game was supposed to be at Ellen's, but something was going on with her kitchen. So last minute, the venue changed to your kitchen table at your home in Dunwoody. When you met Jerry, you thought he was very nice, was a strong bridge player, which made a good impression on you, and he was easy on the eyes with a great head of hair. Over the next few months, Jerry made frequent trips to Atlanta, ostensibly to see his friends, but really, Sheila, it was to see you. Sometimes you would go on walks, other times exhibits at the High. He would call you often, and you two really enjoyed each other. Clearly, Sheila, you made an indelible impression on Jerry from the start, until you were both impressed into each other's very being, your neshama, your souls. 6 months after you met that November evening, you were married. No, engaged. You were engaged. Amazing. When the family sat in my study a few days ago to talk about Jerry, I asked them to play a game with me, to create with me in their minds Jerry's perfect day. This day wouldn't be restricted by the laws of physics or time, but rather would be one that they imagined Jerry would have loved to live, for indeed in some ways he did. On Jerry's perfect day, he would wake up at 7 a.m. in Israel. He and Sheila would have a busy day of touring planned, and each moment in that holy land would be pregnant with history, culture, and religion. Jerry loved the connection to his past and his people. And perhaps this is how the divine permeated his scientific consciousness. Jerry loved the adventure, even when he complained. For when he was gathered to his people, he was most connected to the source from which he came and to where we each are meant to return. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. On 8 a.m. on Jerry's perfect day, he'd be in his kitchen, engaged in the familiar habits of breakfast. Cheerios, a banana, black coffee with 2 stevias. Or perhaps on this weekend day, a bagel with cream cheese and lox. Jerry was a guy who liked his routine and the stability that came with it. At 9 a.m. on his perfect day, Jerry is playing golf. He has that funny little wiggle dance swing that Eric likes to rib him about. His golf could be anywhere, but likely it's at the polo club, playing with his family or friends or both. He's been playing since he was 19 years old, and he enjoys the green, the competition, and the camaraderie. It's his favorite way to connect, and every good shot brings him a sense of satisfaction. On the golf course with Jerry, everything is right in the world. By 10 a.m. on Jerry's perfect day, he and Sheila are with one of their grandkids on one of their special trips. It might be to New York, or Boston, or Philly, with shopping and shows, good meals, and great conversation. There would likely be an ice cream sandwich involved, and perhaps a pool. He loved his grandkids, each and every one, and relished their attention and each of their successes. By 11 a.m., Jerry's fishing off the Iron Snail in Granada. And at noon, he's eating the grandkids' mac and cheese. It's noisy and tasty, and Jerry loves being there. By 1 p.m., Jerry is at Disney with 19 folks with his family. It's hot, it's loud, it's busy. Jerry is acting the curmudgeon. But it's important to Sheila, so it's important to him. And secretly, when he's not complaining about it, he loves it too. So many smiles. Everyone's so happy. And most importantly, everyone's together. By 4 p.m., Jerry's in the den with the guys, watching football or golf, and just hanging out. They're getting motivated for the evening, which is Passover Seder. Jerry and the other men will soon be busy moving chairs, doing last-minute shopping for food, getting the ice, and generally taking directions from the strong women that they've married. By 6 p.m., it's time for Seder. It's a big one on Jerry's perfect day. Close to 40 people are packed in. Tables are everywhere, in every room, even in the hallway. Sheila's on brisket. Lisa's on chicken. Nancy has her special matzo ball soup. Everyone has their role. And they've done this so many times that even amid the chaos, everything gets done. The tables are set. The Seder plates are made. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh? Why is this night different from all other nights? Well, different because it's Passover, but in some ways it's the same for this family who see each other and love each other through ritual and food and sacred gathering. Elijah's cup stands alone, beckoning in the Messiah and Olam Haba, the world to come, where we will all be together again, those living and those who have passed, in a world that has been redeemed. Before the Seder begins, the family ritual commences. Who is missing from the table because they've died? And the family says their names, lists them with love, recounts stories and memory. Each one is listed, for they are missed, and their presence still intensely felt. This coming Wednesday night, under the Pesach Nisan moon, your family will include Jerry's name and remember him for the love that you shared and for his life so full, so well lived. Jerry, in life you were truly loved. So too in death will you be very, very missed. Zichron Bracha, may your memory be a blessing always. I'd like to invite up wife Sheila, accompanied by her children.
Okay, I'm going to try. First of all, Jerry was a wonderful husband, father, grandfather to his 6 children and 12 grandchildren that the rabbi has just described so beautifully to you. My journey with Jerry began in 1999. My first husband, Howard, had been dead for about 5 years, and our mutual friends, Randy and Ellen Feinberg, arranged a blind date to play bridge, as the rabbi just described also. We had a great first date playing bridge and found that we had a lot in common and started dating. And 6 months later, we had fallen in love and decided we would get married. We got married a year later. We were married for almost 23 years and enjoyed a wonderful life together. We bought a home together in Cumming at the Polo Golf and Country Club because Jerry wanted to live in the golf course community. He also wanted me out of Dunwoody because he wanted us to build a new life together, and he didn't want to just fill in the gap of my life with all of my wonderful Dunwoody friends. He also realized that my children, Mitch, Robin, Gail, and Lisa, had just been married in the last 14 months. And 2 of them lived in Dunwoody, and he, in his own way, was selfish enough to want to keep me closer to him and not running to help babysit for the grandchildren that he knew would be coming. He couldn't get away from this large and loving family, however. At that time, I had 1 grandson, which was Jack, and Jerry had 3 grandsons, but they did not live in Atlanta at the time, and they still don't. He had played golf his entire life and wanted to be near a golf course. In the years that we were first married, he would be up and out of the house by 7:30 for 5 days a week to play golf with the men. Unfortunately, over the years, he developed shoulder and back issues, and his golf game suffered. and for about the last 5 years, he didn't play because it did not live up to his expectations. But his legacy is that he taught me to play, and for 23 years, I've been playing golf. So, when we moved here to Polo, we met some wonderful people who introduced Jerry to the theater world. He and I spent many hours, months, days, and years at the Cumming Playhouse, where we participated in many Georgia Senior Follies and many, many theatrical Broadway productions. Jerry was the comic relief in most of these shows. It was amazing the way he would go on stage and do whatever the directors asked him to do, and the audience loved him. Some of his memorable acts were the Balloon Man and the Bikini Girl and Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. He was also the grumpy old man Artie Johnson's Tyrone in the Laugh-In skits with Ruth Buzzy's Gladys with Kathy Russell. They were hilarious. And I would just want to note that it's a large contingent of the Senior Follies people here today. And I'm thrilled that you all came. Thank you. At the same time, Jerry and I learned to play duplicate bridge and acquired our life masters. We made many new friends at the Bridge Club, and Jerry always enjoyed sharing his knowledge of bridge with people who are trying to become better players. When we got married, Jerry entered a very large family, and it grew to become even larger. He did not realize at the time how large it would become. Howard's family embraced him, and he embraced them, and we are all still part of a wonderful extended family. And I expect that in the future, going forward, Jerry's family and I will still remain as close as we have ever been. When we got married, as I said earlier, we had 4 grandsons, Nick, Brent, Troy, and Jack. We now have 6 grandsons and 6 granddaughters: Hannah, Harry, Caitlin, Carly, Ashley, Shane, Casey, and Shelby. They have brought a richness to our lives with much joy and laughter and many wonderful experiences together. We spent wonderful vacations at Disney World, Lake Toxaway, and Hilton Head together. May I have a drink? Jerry loved to travel, and throughout our marriage, we went to many fabulous places together. He was the big planner, and he would spend hours and hours on the computer finding the right hotel and planning the perfect tour guide and experience for us to share. We have many scrapbooks which he documented, and he remembered every detail of all of our trips. I would say, Jerry, what was the name of that hotel? Or what was the city? And he would know, he would tell me. We were in the midst of planning trips to Greece and Turkey and Iceland, Norway, and England, which we would have enjoyed together this summer. He loved these new experiences. He loved to see all of the countries of the world and meet people and then share these experiences when we came home. We volunteered at Temple Emanu-El's food pantry in Sandy Springs once a month on Saturday mornings. He was in charge of the freezer, and he was very popular among the patrons and his fellow workers. He always had a helping hand, a smile, and a joke for everyone. Last September, Jerry celebrated his 85th birthday. We made a wonderful party for him at Gail's house. He knew about the party, but he did not know that his son and daughter, Robert and Eileen, and grandsons Nick and Brent would be there to surprise him, and he was truly surprised. Jerry was kind and considerate and compassionate. He always tried to find a solution when there was a problem. Since last June, his health has been a constant challenge. He had treatment for 2 very serious conditions in his left eye, which took away most of his vision and unfortunately his driving skills. For the last year, he could only drive in the neighborhood. And then suddenly, during this last month, he became very tired and lost all of his energy. We had just returned from a wonderful visit to see Eileen and Tom and Brent and Troy in Tampa, where Tom and Eileen had just retired. We spent a wonderful week together and even drove over to the Boynton Beach area to visit some of my friends and relatives who live there. He and I used to take long walks together, and he was no longer able to do that. We did everything together. He even helped me color my hair. This multiple myeloma struck him so suddenly and swiftly and took us all by surprise. We could never have believed what would have happened this past week. I'm sure he did not expect this, and we did not expect this to happen so quickly. I loved him, and he loved me, and we tried to make each other happy, to help each other in any way that we could, and I will miss him.
I'd like to invite up son Robert to share some words.
I'd like to share a few memories. I'd like you to imagine a handsome man in his early 40s, reclining on his side on the freshly mown lawn, holding a handwritten sign stating Yard of the Week, W-E-A-K. That was my dad. My mother, she had started a crafting business when we moved up to Watertown, New York. She sewed useful items out of quilted fabric, and it was small at first, as I recall, part of a local holiday craft fair, but it grew and it grew with more shows and mail order businesses, and I remember him supporting her passion by cutting the fabric for her to sew and providing support on the road shows. He was behind her, enabling her, helping to make it as successful as it was. I remember him taking me to batting cages to practice when I was in Little League. I remember him taking me to Wendy's after one game where I had hit a triple. Unfortunately, he wouldn't let me get the triple burger to celebrate. He had a small collection of tools that he kept in the garage, power drill, screwdriver, hammer, but I don't remember him using them. He referred to himself as mechanically reclined. Still, when I wanted to build shelves in my room for stereo speakers, he got up from watching golf and he helped me. And I think of the summer spent at the company cabin on the island and on Lake Ontario, all the aunts and uncles and cousins joining us for a week of fishing and exploring and telling jokes, jokes that I can't repeat here. But really the joy he exuded as he played program director for 12 or so of us. He always had a big smile on his face as he was rounding us up semi-willing participants for the next event. And I want to add that going through the photos as I have this week, looking at that, seeing all the vacations, those I remember and those before when I was too young to remember, or just those pictures of him, just the big smile on his face. He was enjoying it immensely. So these are things that I've learned. I've learned from my dad how to treat a wife, how to be a father, how to pursue joy, to relish it. And I learned some off-color jokes. I learned a lot, and I'll truly miss him. But he's here, and he's in all of us. And I remember that.
I'd like to invite up daughter Eileen to share some words.
Seeing all of you come in, or when I came in, and having you stand and honor my dad, I'm truly grateful. Thank you for being here. He was in many respects similar to a lot of great dads. He was at my gymnastic meets and piano recitals. He was a wonderful husband to our mom, and he pursued his own career at the same time, always trying to instill life lessons in us. My fondest memory, I think, has to be the yearly car vacations, because that's all we could afford at the time. He would take his 2-week vacation at one time. He would plot and map out where we were going to go as we drove all over the country. We would pack everything into our wood-paneled station wagon with the big ice cooler that had our breakfast and our lunch in it. We had the dog, sometimes the grandmother, and we were the proverbial Griswolds from the movie Vacation. That was us. And it took us a day just to get out of Texas. So these were long vacations. We went to Colorado, to California, to New York, St. Louis, a lot of places, and everywhere in between, of course, stopping at the largest ball of string or whatever Dad found fascinating that he wanted to show us. We also got to play things like the license plate game. You guys over here, you don't know what that is. But those were wonderful trips, wonderful memories. And as I now see, they are the precursor to the more elegant, more formal international travel that you two have done together. But on the serious side, he was very keen to our education. Even decades ago for me as a female, I was absolutely going to college. He didn't have much. He had more than his parents, and he wanted us to have more than him. He wanted us to be good stewards in life and in society. He wanted us to be kind and honest, like he was. He wanted us to add more than we subtract. And he was a leader in all of those ways. And then he began his next chapter after our mom died. I was so happy when he told me he found somebody. He would get on the phone with me every week and tell me the new date they went on or experience that they did, and all I could do on the other side of the phone was smile. I was so happy. It was amazing how this wonderfully big, huge family that he was not used to welcomed him in and did everything with him and involved him. He loved it. I know that you and my dad had a wonderfully loving relationship, and all that time, not just at the end, but all that time, I think I told you many times, I'm so happy you take care of my dad, and I will be eternally grateful to you for that. My dad was a shining example of how to live the second chapter of your life. I hope to learn something from that. Some hidden talents came out, like him being on stage. Didn't see that one coming at all. He turned out to be the curmudgeon-y but loving grandfather. And of course, he had that special sense of humor that many of you have told me about already. Lastly, you may not know this, but he was actually tone deaf, which many people are. So probably one of my fondest memories is, as kids, he would belt at the top of his lungs, on top of Old Smoky, in an awfully off-tune way, and he'd be orchestrating with the hands, and we had our hands over our ears, and laughing hysterically inside. So I do picture him that way, doing that somewhere. Goodbye, Dad, we love you.
I'd like to invite up Gail, Robin, Lisa, and Mitchell.
It always starts with, I'm going to go first, I'm going to go first, and then here we are.
Big brother.
Yeah.
Big brother, good.
So we were texting last night, and we said some people like to retire to their country estates and live a life of leisure, attended by their servants and personal chefs, and Jerry had that. But he took another route. Taking my mom on an adventure of travel and high-stakes gambling competitions and challenging polo matches. Maybe not the polo. But I can't tell you how many cities and countries Jerry and Mom visited over the last 20 years. I really can't, because I can't keep up. She would tell me, we're doing this country and this country and this cruise and this cruise. And I'd be like, okay, write this down for us. Tell us when you're going. Tell us where you're going, because otherwise we're not going to keep up. I think Mom said Jerry was always the trip planner, and we had a lot of fun conversations as they planned the next adventure. And I know Karen had a lot of good conversations with Jerry, because she's my trip planner. Jerry made my mom so happy, and in the end, that's the most important thing.
After my dad passed away, Mom had gone through lots of rough times, and she traveled with girlfriends, and we traveled, or we got together, and there are 4 weddings that my mom commandeered. And a lot of stuff was changing in the world, but when Mom met Jerry, Eric and I were living in Detroit, and we didn't know the beginning, because we were away, we just heard about it on the phone, but when they became a unit, really, Jerry completed my mom. Like, he made her life whole again. He made her life more than it ever could have been before, because she enjoyed having a life where she raised the 4 of us, and it was time for her, and it was time for him. And they had both gone through a lot of loss, but they were strong. They're strong people. And when Mom and Jerry got together, they forged a new pathway. They traveled the world, as Mitch was saying and everybody said. They became part of each other's families. Mom loved going to visit Brent and Troy and Eileen and Robert and Tom and Julia and Nicholas, and all of those things were great. And he loved becoming the grandfather with my mom that my kids would not have had, and Lisa's kids and Robin's kids and Mitch's kids. And altogether there's 12 grandkids who have a grandfather, who is an amazing grandfather. And it's hard to remember things because it all gets merged together. And Mom was always the planner, but Jerry, what he wanted to do was make Mom happy and make our family happy. So he never missed a beat. He was always there for everything. There wasn't a time when Mom shows up without Jerry. No, they're a team. They were a unit. They were in love with each other and the life that they had made together. Jerry loved golf. So what did Mom do? She learned to play golf. She's a good golfer. Jerry loved theater, Mom loved theater. I mean, all the kids, begrudgingly or not, they go to theater. You know, and it became something. And they got their tween trips with Mom. They all got their moments that were Mom and Jerry. They had the Mom and Jerry moments. And, you know, he was a curmudgeon. Everybody, like, loved Jerry the curmudgeon. Like, that's his word, right? That's how we describe Jerry. But he had a good time, and he loved everyone, and he loved being part of it. And he would have never wanted to miss anything for anybody he cared about. Friends, celebrations, parties, mitzvahs, all of it. He put up with a huge family, but he showed up, and he was there every moment. And he was by my mom's side, and he truly made her life complete. He made our lives complete. And we are grateful for him to be a part of our lives, and we will miss him. And as fast as this all happened, you know, my mom said this to me the other day, it doesn't matter if things happen fast or slow. You never really get a chance to say the things that you want to say or really say goodbye. But he's always in our heart, and we'll always care, and we love him. All of us love him very much. And I know he would appreciate everybody being here, so thank you.
The thing about never saying goodbye is that I think that we won't easily say goodbye to Jerry. But we were lucky to have had him. We were lucky that we got to celebrate his 85th birthday with the entire family and everybody who came. And you really realized how important those times are, to celebrate the times. And Jerry was the first one to show up at any time. But it's just celebrating our family, and it's kind of a theme for us, is to always celebrate and be there for the celebrations. But Jerry, he picked the right time. He came into our lives really at a perfect time. Mom, as you know the story, she spent the last few years of in between planning weddings, keeping herself busy. I don't think anybody is. I tell all my friends, Mom is the busiest person I know, and they laugh because they think we're all busy. But keeping up with Mom. But she was planning weddings, having a really great time in her life, and it was about to slow down, and Jerry just came in and swiftly picked up and made Mom her, like Gail said, created their life together. And Mom always said that Jerry said this, if he had met her any earlier, she wouldn't have had time to date him. So she had time, and she loved it. And he quickly took on the role as Papa Jerry as we started to have kids, and more kids, and every 6 months or a year, more kids. So he was such a fun grandpa. He loved doing really whatever Mom was doing. And he just always was there to be a part of that. It made her happy, it made him happy, it made us happy, and it definitely made all of our kids happy. Most of all, we're grateful that he and Mom found each other. He took care of Mom. I know you say she took care of him, but we are so grateful for Jerry. He loved her. They traveled. They created memories. He was genuinely a sweet guy, a loving person, and we couldn't have asked for anything more for our family. We will love him. We love him. He was truly a blessing in our lives, and we will truly miss him. Thank you all for being here. This just speaks volumes to who Jerry was and how important he was to everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, I invite up the grandkids, led by Hannah, to share some words.
Grandpa Jerry has always been a constant in our lives. Yeah, sorry about that. Grandpa Jerry has always been a constant in our lives. Each summer, we would stay with Grandma and Grandpa for about a week, and he was always happy to take us to go to the pool and ride the water slide with us and get us ice cream sandwiches right after. As we got older, we saw him perform in plays and dazzle us with his wonderful singing voice. Grandpa Jerry was always there to make sure us kids were happy. He was a part of every birthday and holiday, always cracking jokes and making us smile whenever he wasn't sleeping behind a newspaper on the couch. We're all so glad that we got to have him in our lives. He was, and just always will be, our Papa Jerry. That's all.
You can head on down. Please join me with Psalm 23, which some of you know is the Lord's Prayer. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Please rise for El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamatzeh Menucha Nuchona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kurashim Atoharim, Kizoha Harakia Mazherim, Et Nishmat Avraham Asara, Shehalach Le'olamo, Pa'al HaRachamim, Yistirehu Basater Kanfav Le'olamim, Vayitzor Betzor Chachayim, Nishmato Adonai Unachlato Ve'yanuach b'shalom Amishkavo V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Jerry, who's entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And to that we say,